Starting with the model suspension, what do you mean? I'm doing more Russian tanks. Yeah, people keep telling me to do more Russian tanks, so, here goes a Russian tank. This? Yeah, it's a Russian tank. Well, not in this configuration, no. I mean, it's Israeli, but, it is a T-55 after all. Fine. Okay. Hang on. Alright, let's go ahead and do something Russian. Hey, did anyone see that T34-85 lying around? Hey everyone, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a really short model showcase video for an even smaller Russian T34-85. The model in this video is built for my own personal collection and is not for sale and/or purchase, and generally at this point in the video I would say that I often take on commission build projects from models ranging between 1/35 scale and 1/6 scale. For availability and pricing information, that information would be best by contacting me through the email address listed below, which is info@eastcoastarmory.com. However, this model here is nowhere even close to being 1/35 to 1/6 scale, so this is something that I am not offering any sort of commission building on. It's just a one-off for my collection. This model here is built completely stock, and I guess you would say out of the box if it had one. We'll be going over this information extremely quickly in this video, and I do want to take a moment to say I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, so let's see how well I can pull this one off. To start this video off, let's go ahead and take a really quick walk around this model. And here's the model at the start of the project. For the base starter kit, hang on, let me go ahead and take care of something. Okay, now that's much better. All right, so for the base starter kit, I'll be utilizing this, what am going to be calling an atomic scale T34-85. This particular model here is made from a resin 3D printing and was something that I got as a gift when I purchased some 3D printed components from a vendor of mine. It was a bit of a surprise when I was looking through the parts that I purchased from the fellow, only to find this little miniature gem found in the bag. So if you're watching this out there, I want to say thank you for the excellent gift. Obviously, the running gag of this video is going to be just how tiny this model actually is. And if I was to take a guess, I'd say it's possibly 1/100 scale, maybe 1/2. No, I think it's a little bit bigger than 1/200. I think it's about 100, maybe 1/150, around there. So it's one of those, like, ship scales. Anyway, the model is consisting of two pieces where we have the turret and the hull, and they are two separate printings, which is great because I can actually have the turret configured on this thing in a multitude of different directions. The elevation, of course, is fixed on the barrel, but for something this tiny, seriously, what more do you want? With the focus just right, hopefully the details on the printing come to better light. You can see that although this thing is microscopic in scale, the detailing on it is actually really good. You can see the bow hatch, the bow MG, the exhaust, the engine hatch, and even the top manifold section found on the rear deck of the T34, which is something I need to finish up on the 1/6 scale Armor Tech one, but that's a topic for literally another video for another day. The suspension is true to form. Obviously you're not going to have any of the wheel detailing like the starfish or the other stamp pattern, but again, for a not even braille scale, for this atomic scale T34 here, it's more than suffice for the job at hand. We even have the two fuel tanks found on the rear. There's a little bit of a pouring basin found right over here on the bottom portion. Undoubtedly, this is probably how the thing was printed, standing up in this format. So this is something that's going to be polished away with a needle file just before the thing goes into paint. The turret also looks pretty good. It has the appropriate shape and geometry of the T3485 turret. There is a little sprue portion in the back, just like with the hull. Again, it was probably printed in this type of a format. With the camera focus in, you could probably get a better view of the cupola, the air blower, and the loader's hatch found on the top, not to mention the periscope it's there, and you could faintly see the cutouts there for the mantlet. On the barrel section, it does have a muzzle brake on the end, which is something that is not found on a T3485 unless you're talking about the old school Revell monogram T34 from the 1950s, but that sounds like a cool topic for another video for another day. For this one here, this is probably something I'm going to just snip off, and that's probably all the prep work that's going to go into this little thing to get it into paint. So, from there, let's go ahead and get started on this one. Starting with the rear area of the model, as I touched upon before, on both the hull and the turret, there was a little bit of sprue remaining from the location where the unit was printed. These areas were polished down with a little bit of sandpaper and a little bit of a needle file in some of the areas on the lower portion of that angled plate, but once completed, it made for a nice, clean end result. Outside of that, that's really all that was done to the model build-wise. Oh, outside of giving the barrel a bit of a snip by lobbing off that integrally printed on muzzle brake. With the piece removed, the accuracy of the model actually went up a little bit. From there, it's all down to the paintwork. The unit was completely primed with flat black spray paint, and then I went ahead and applied the Russian AFV green that I cobbled together a little while ago, and it's the same green that I'm using on the 1/6 scale T3485, so basically it's kind of a dry run of that, but it's also a color that I've been using on a few other Russian builds that I actually have built and are waiting to be edited and added to YouTube for your enjoyment. Outside of the main base coat, I went ahead and weathered it with some of the Tamiya black panel line accent. This is great for a model this size. It just goes into all the crevices and it really gives the model a nice weathered look. Unlike the larger scale models where I add a filter or some dry brushing, for this one here it really wasn't necessary because of the way the paint was added. It kind of naturally gave that distressed look automatically, so there was no need to enhance it any further. The tracks are painted flat black, and then I went ahead and went over the surfaces with a little bit of rust paint just to give the tracks a little bit of extra weathering. On the exhaust manifolds, you can see I add a little bit of rust and powder, or I should say exhaust soot, to these two locations, and a little bit of powder fouling was added to the barrel as well. One other thing I want to mention about the paintwork is that I went ahead and gave it that iconic Russian late war aerial recognition stripe, which is probably my favorite Russian World War II painting scheme that is found on these vehicles. The stripe was meticulously, carefully painted with the finest paintbrush that I have in my paintbrush bin, and the paint is just diluted latex flat white paint. Once I had the proper consistency, I was able to add the paint to the locations, leaving for the results that we have here. The paint is a bit on the translucent end, but again, it kind of works very well with the overall weathered effect on the tank as a whole. At the end of the day, I couldn't be any happier in how this one turned out. This was a project that literally just fell in my lap, and I was able to finish it off in practically no time. And I literally mean practically no time. The thing that took the longest to do on this build was waiting for the paints to dry. Once the base coat and the primer was dry, the rest of the paintwork went by without a hitch. Even though this is not a scale that I work in, nor is it a scale that I have remotely any interest in, I will say that having this model added to my collection makes for a very interesting and unique footnote. And this model is quite literally, I guess, a very small footnote in my collection. And because this model was a gift, this makes it even that much better. And with that, that wraps up this really short model showcase video for this equally as tiny Russian T3485. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to this channel, where it's a great way to keep up to date on new posted content, being small scale model showcase videos, well, not so much like this one here, but similar to this one here, as well as the much larger scale project update videos that frequently get posted to this channel. Another way to keep in loop of new posted content is by liking us on Facebook. There I have more photographs of this particular build, as well as the other larger and smaller content that has been seen on this channel in the past. Furthermore, don't forget to swing by eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 and 1/16 scale builds and detail components. Thanks again. I'll be seeing you all again on the next one. Take care. Okay, so I think I did figure out the scale for this thing. It is actually, this whole time, 1/6 scale. It's a 1/48 scale T3485 model that's actually 1/6 scale. Like the actual 1/48 scale tank model, but in 1/6 scale. Yeah, that makes sense.